Welcome everybody back to Veil of Sound, video interview Sunday as usual, and I'm very glad to have two people here who are re-releasing one of my favorite post-rock / post-metal EPs of the last 10 years. We have Tara and Wes from The End of the Ocean here. Thanks for being with us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So maybe you can introduce yourself to the audience a little bit, like what are you doing in the band apart from looking sharp as ever? But who's doing what?
My name is Tara Mayer, and I am the keyboard and synth player for the band, and the one that talks in between, unfortunately.
The voice of the voiceless band.
So Wes, what is your job?
I play drums. I make a lot of noise, and I'm probably the loudest, but also the quietest person in the band.
That's what they always say, right? So how did you, as two individuals and as a band, get through the pandemic? Everything good, or any problems over the last 2 years? Did you catch the big C?
I think I did a couple of times, but I was a bartender at the time, so that's kind of par for the course, especially before vaccines were available. The pandemic was terrible. Personally, as a band, we didn't see each other collectively actually until we re-recorded On Floating for this new release. We'd seen a few of us kind of in tandem over, what was it, Wes, like 2.5 years?
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't
before the pandemic. We were all not together in a room since October 2019.
Wow.
Until what, 3 months ago when we recorded.
Yeah.
So that's like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good times, huh, Tara?
I got a little emotional when I saw Trish because I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen her in so long.
I can imagine.
I'd seen the board.
Okay. So, let's talk about the reason for this interview. You are re-releasing In Excelsis, an amazing, let's call it EP for the sake of it. Who got the idea for remastering, and also re-recording one of the tracks?
I think it was, we have talked about doing like a vinyl re-release for a while with a few of the early releases. That one just kind of happened to be right around the 10-year mark. And Post.Recordings expressed interest in wanting to do a vinyl release. So we're like, hey, let's go. Perfect time. Let's do this.
So let's think back on that moment when you first recorded In Excelsis 10 years, more than 10 years ago. How was that recording process back then?
Fast.
When you were still a young band?
Yeah, it was fast.
Yeah.
I think I actually quit college the day that we went to the studio, and that's when I kind of was like, all right, well, I'm a lifer for this band now. Like,
Wes, I totally forgot about that.
So do you still consider yourself a lifer for the band?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that would ever make me not want to be in this band at this point. I think we've kind of been through anything and everything that we can as a band. So it's, there's really no reason to exit ever at this point. Okay. Plus, they're my family. I love all of my bandmates. They're the best people.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a studio somewhere in the Midwest, wasn't it? In Indiana, something like that?
Yeah, it was in Goshen, Indiana. Our buddy Grant was the one that recorded us. What was that? Wes, what was the band that he was in previously? The new metal Christian band?
Man. I can't remember. But they were definitely like a bigger band.
For the Christian scene, yeah.
Yeah, they were.
But so we were recording with him. He has since stopped recording and producing music. He's now a full-time photographer.
So
but
you were the last ones. Save the best for last.
I don't know if we were the last one,
but close to it, yeah.
Okay.
Probably the last post-rock band that he recorded.
Yeah,
but,
maybe the only post-rock band he recorded.
Yeah. It was cool though. His setup was over an old movie theater in downtown Goshen. And luckily, when we recorded In Excelsis, it was warmer weather. But the first time we were there for Pacific Atlantic, it was the middle of winter and he had no heat. So we were just kind of walking around and recording, wearing blankets and jackets and hats and all that stuff. But, you know, makes for good stories later on. But yeah, he had a really cool, chill setup. And like I said, it was warmer when we recorded In Excelsis. So yeah, it was a good experience.
So In Excelsis is like the warm version of Pacific Atlantic.
Yes.
But let me get this straight. So he had the studio, so you basically wanted him to record it, and the studio came second, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was giving us a really good deal, to be honest. So, and at that time, we were such a green band that we didn't really know too many studios or people that'd be willing to record us, because explaining our style of music was just it kind of went over people's heads. So the fact that he was willing to do it and he was willing to experiment, and again, he was our buddy, and you know, it all worked out ultimately.
Did this location in the middle of nowhere also influence you in a way? Do you think that there's something Midwest about the record?
I don't know so much about the record being Midwest, but we like to get out of town when we record because there's no distractions. You can't go see your significant other.
Yeah.
There's no places. There aren't really many places to go.
Especially there. That was a very like small town vibe. So, you know, we were basically like either in the studio or at like whatever the local restaurant was to get food. And that's pretty much it.
The coffee shop, the one coffee shop they had.
Yeah, there was like nothing else there. So we were kind of, you know, mostly focused on the record.
Yeah.
So on this re-release, you also have a song that at least I never found on any other recording of yours. One Last Goodbye. Is that a leftover? Is it a completely new song?
So originally we put that out as like a special edition lathe disc. It was like a bonus track. So CD.
One of those lathe cuts?
Yeah. So it was a CD, and then the top was like a lathe cut that you could play on a record player. I don't really remember how we decided to do that. We was like, oh yeah, we've never heard of that. That seems cool, and we want to offer like a special offer, you know, with this release. And I think that was like, we only did like 20 of those or something. It was very, very limited. I don't think any of us even own one. I have the booklet for it, but I don't have one of the discs.
Yeah, we were loosely on a record label when we first started out. It's now defunct, but the guy basically, for all intents and purposes, was just distribution, especially over in Japan and Europe. And that's what we wanted. We wanted a European audience because Americans weren't super in tune with this genre of music. And in fact, that particular bonus song, I think we recorded in like 30 minutes because we had to rush out of the studio. It was our last day. And we were going to play our first show over in Chicago at a venue called Reggie's. And we were opening for a band called Alceste. And they're from, I don't know what city in France.
France.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were, I mean, that was our biggest show at that point in our fandom, I guess. So, I mean, we were all shaking in our boots, and those guys are super nice, but total rock stars compared to what we're used to. So it was, it was a really fun experience.
One thing that was really cool about that though is that our buddy was like tour managing them. And I don't know if he was just like tooting our horn or whatever, but he said after that show, he made Alceste made all of the venues play our music as house music before they went on, which is pretty nice.
Stefan is first of all a really nice guy, and second of all, he can be in a very positive way fanboyish.
Yeah.
We'll also have him on our website in a few weeks.
Awesome.
Very nice guy. Just like a lot of those French black metal influenced bands.
Yeah.
But one last goodbye. So good thing is it is an old recording, so it's not a programmatic title, right?
No, it is definitely old.
And then you now have basically a third version of In Floating. You have the original on In Excelsis, then there's this live recording on one of those session records, and now you have a third one. And I think this third version is the longest version, with 7 minutes and a little bit. Why did you redo this song and not all of them?
I think really time constraint. We really would like to re-record all of In Excelsis and probably all of Pacific Atlantic, but I think as far as the time frame we had, On Floating seems to be like the most at least from what we hear, the most popular song on the EP. And it's one of our favorite ones to play in the set. So we're just like, hey, let's do a new, refreshed, reimagined version of this track.
I would also argue maybe subconsciously we decided on that song because it's one of our more, there always seems to be an undercurrent of melancholy in a lot of our songs, and that's the one song that doesn't have too much of that. Mm-hmm. And I think we all just kind of need some brevity right now.
Yeah, and it's also a little, it is a little floaty, right? It's light in a way.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
But the new version that you did is very elegant, very elegic, even in a way. So how difficult was it for you to add those little bits and pieces to it?
Well, that was really nice of you to say about that song, by the way.
Just for truth.
I appreciate it. So Trish was not able to record with us for that EP. She was just being introduced into the band. We still had our other original guitarist before he departed. So going into the studio with her, obviously she knows the parts, she learned them, but she's also kind of made them her own as we've tempered them live. But I think there was just a new maturity, especially with Trish kind of coming to her own and having more confidence to kind of take the reins and have ideas for certain things and speak up when she wanted to add something or she didn't like something. And I mean, there's quite a few spots that, you know, guitar and like even with my piano parts that she was like, hey, can we try this? And we would get kind of funky and just try it out. And we're also lucky we recorded with one of our friends, Jeremy, who used to be in a metalcore band, and for whatever reason he just has really clicked with us. And so Trish has a hard time sometimes articulating exactly what sound she wants. So his personality clicked, and he's like, just give me like just a word, a feeling, a taste, something, a visual, and we can figure it out. So they just kind of sat there and like she'd be like, nope, not that. And he'd scroll through like his programming and look for something else, and he tried, and she'd be, no, not quite. And then they just sit there and tweak. And it didn't take that long. I mean, he's super efficient, but it was kind of fun seeing Trish, like, again, take the reins on some of that stuff. And I mean, everybody chipped in equally. I mean, Wes changed up some of the drum parts, and I like the drums actually better in this recording. Kevin also changed stuff, different effect pedals. It was just kind of us all coming together and just having fun. So,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a feeling as if the production of a new version is a little bit more open and a little bit clearer. Is that just my perception, or is that also an intention behind it?
I think that's just definitely us. I'm not going to say becoming better musicians, but
well, 10 years later.
Yeah, becoming more seasoned, I guess, but also the studio that we were in. Like Jeremy has an amazing setup, and he has a great ear for, you know, mixing and how certain layers should end up in a song and that kind of thing. So it's very helpful. We love working with him as much as we can.
Well, and also the original recording with In Excelsis, Grant actually had us mic our amps and he felt like that was a more organic sound. And I like the sound just fine, but looking back, it does kind of seem like there is a mask in between the listener versus what we heard in the studio. So there might be, you know, there's a different translation sonically with that.
Yeah.
As I said, I think it's a little clearer. And your new producer, did he also do the mastering itself, or was that also given again to another person who also did his little magic to it?
We did have it sent out to be mastered. I can't recall the guy's name, but he does a lot of like orchestral stuff, which I think kind of makes sense for post-rock. You know, it's kind of what it follows. So when he suggested this person, we were like, yeah, that's definitely the way to go.
And then I have a general question about the record title. I mean, like On Floating, as we said, it's a little upbeat, it's a little funkier, more uplifting, I would say. But the record itself, In Excelsis, is it borrowed from the old Latin hymn, In Excelsis Deo?
Yeah.
my 6 years of Latin finally paid off.
It is. I was the one who was pushing for that. I was raised in the church, so there's still a small obsession that I have with the old language and kind of the old poetry of the Bible and hymns. I really like hymns still. I don't claim to be a Christian anymore, but yeah, you can't really get rid of that stuff in your brain, and there is a certain poetry to those words. So
it definitely is, and I think it's also a perfect record title for a post-rock record, right?
Thank you.
Up, going up, just like a lot of post-rock songs, and also your songs. Also, when we talk about the new record, I have to ask this: are you now getting into your green period? You had 2 brown records, you had 2 gray or steelish ones. So, is this now the green period?
Sure.
I mean, like Tara already has a room painted green, so.
Yeah. I know, yeah. Welcome to my green room, guys.
No, I like the way that you redid the original cover just by offsetting different colors. That is very, very nicely done. But when we talk about In Excelsis, I mean, like, it's clear that after 10 years revisiting a record and also re-recording one of the tracks makes you also, I guess, look back on it. So how do you now feel about that record 10 years after?
For me, that was actually the first recordings that I was on in the band. So it's definitely like a baby for me, you know, because that's kind of like what started, I think, the transition of the way we sound since I joined the band, but also just for me, I never really was into post-rock or listened to post-rock or played post-rock before I was in this band. So for me, it was just like a new venture in playing music and drumming, and I've hold it, you know, pretty high on a lot of the projects I've worked on. So pretty exciting for me to be able to do a re-release, then, you know, re-record one of those songs and all of that.
So Tara, how is it for you? I mean, like, you were already in the band before, so.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't record. Well, I recorded Pacific Atlantic, but I was introduced to the band so last minute before they were going to go into the studio that I just played whatever was already written. So In Excelsis for me was also my first time actually writing my own parts and having that experience. And also, I would say to Wes's credit, he pushed us in a more intense direction, which I really appreciated, because I was also still learning about post-rock. And I honestly, I learned to love Pacific Atlantic and understand the genre a little bit better. But Wes's style of drumming kind of pushed us into a more aggressive attack, which kind of clicked better with my personality, and also I think the other people that were in our band at the time. And I mean, also nostalgically, some of those song titles are based off of books I was reading at the time, a lot of Steinbeck and things like that, parables. So nostalgia with that, and also just being really, really poor.
Is that also in a way, like now 10 years later, would you now consider this as like a changing point for the band, with new members coming in, other members going out, and now you've been together for 10 years?
There's definitely a comfortability now. Definitely call our band a family. Gotten to know, I mean, I barely knew Wes when he first started with us, around the time we were, writing and recording In Excelsis. And I consider him a brother now. So yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it's almost like a marriage where like you're like a good handful of years in, you're comfortable with each other. There can be silences. You can fight as long as you're fighting fair, things like that. So yeah, it's comfortable. It's a lot more comfortable.
Do you also, now you two, for example, do you now also like and listen to more post-rock than before?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I definitely fall more into like post-metal stuff, but still definitely some heavy rotation on certain post-rock bands.
If somebody asked you which record to start with when trying to get into your band and into your body of releases, would you say to start with In Excelsis, or would you suggest another of your records?
Yes, I would actually In Excelsis, because I tell people if they're not used to post rock, don't listen to the first record. It's going to be way too slow for you, unless you smoke a lot of dope.
It's a little bit more slowcore, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had tons of people that listen to that for their first taste in post rock, and it's like, man, this music is so great to fall asleep to, or like when I'm meditating. Cool, that's fine.
Really,
that's not what we intended, but okay.
That's okay. But yeah, no, In Excelsis is a good, and also it's less intimidating. It's only, a small handful of songs. So it's, that's easy.
It's less than 30 minutes, which is always a good thing to start.
Yeah.
Could you imagine touring the album, like playing it in full?
I would enjoy that. There are definitely a few songs that I don't know if we've ever played live.
We've never played like Honey from the Branch. I know that for sure.
But
and you probably also never played One Last Goodbye.
No. Definitely not. But there are fun songs that that I'm sure I would probably play slightly differently now. But even writing those songs, I had fun, creating the drum parts and that kind of thing. So definitely would like to play it live.
But you would play it with a new version of On Floating, right? Not the older one.
Probably.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
I mean, I would be open to that. I just don't know if that's like, sure, yeah, let's go, let's do it.
He would play both versions of On Floating.
We'll play, On Floating original first, and we'll play On Floating 2022 last.
Which would, by the way, be a very, very good ending to any concert, I think. I think that track is either a hell of an opener or a hell of a last one.
Yeah.
Definitely. But Tara, you wanted to say something. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, I mean, so sometimes I will say one of the flaws with our band is we do sometimes have a problem emoting as well as performing some of the softer parts of our songs where there maybe is like more twinkly, gentler tones. Because we do have the tendency to just want to go hard, go fast, and then bye.
Yeah, more Russian circles, less Caspian.
Yeah. Maybe that's our impatience. Maybe that's something that we need to develop as a band. But I mean, I would not mind, maybe booking a tour like or, maybe a couple shows where we do kind of experiment and try to make ourselves slow down, actually get like the right mix that we want, and, try something different. But I mean, I don't mind also going balls to the wall. That's just fine by me.
I think that comes with, we've always been like, when we play out and we're not like touring with post-rock bands, we always try to play with like hardcore bands or metal bands or punk bands, and I think that always kind of translates into us on our live set too, because we all kind of like grew up with that kind of music before we were in this band. So it just, we're like, yeah, let's mosh, during a post-rock song.
But being an old hardcore kid, I then have to ask, favorite hardcore album?
Oh man.
I'll also tell you mine, but you go first. Mine is an open secret. It's after 20 years, 22 years. It's still Boy Sets Fire after Eulogy.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't know if you're familiar with Guns Up, but that was like a East Coast hardcore band that, like, when I was in high school, that really did it for me. So any of their releases probably.
Tara, what would be yours?
I don't have one. I have been around the music scene. I know of many hardcore bands. It's just not something I really put in rotation when I'm by myself. I'll listen to it.
Yeah, definitely not so much anymore. Definitely more away from that now. But
yeah.
Although I think you would perfectly to the wave bands from the early 10s, like La Dispute or Pianos Become the Thief or Touché Amore. I think that would be.
We've played with them multiple times.
Let me guess. Worked out fine, right?
It was great.
Oh, yeah. Super nice guys too.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the scene, so to speak, I mean, like, you come from Ohio. Mm-hmm. How do you perceive your local scene?
There is no post-rock scene. Like, we are the post-rock band from, I would say,
in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, and probably surrounding. I mean, there's a few other bands.
Well, there's If These Trees Could Talk, and
right. But that, I mean, as far as like
sure.
people that are active anymore, like, there are new bands that are all over the place, but like not so much in our area. Or we've got a crazy like DIY punk scene that is thriving right now, and that's awesome, because, like I say, that's kind of like sort of where we come from. So it's really cool to see these young kids doing that, and creating art and music and stuff, and doing it because they have a passion for it.
So are there any bands from Ohio, no matter which genre, where you say, okay, those are newcomers, listen to them? Any suggestions for our audience?
Ooh, Wes, you're gonna have to take that away because I'm so disconnected from the music scene right now. It's been so long. I've been to one live show since lockdown was lifted. So,
like I said, there's a small hardcore label called Delayed Gratification, based out of Columbus and like Cleveland area, and everything that they put out is great. It's a lot of raw punk, hardcore stuff. And a lot of those bands are based here in Columbus, which is pretty cool. And then there's a band called Sanguishugabog that's a death metal band that, like, the last couple of years have just skyrocketed, which is, it's ironically funny, but also very cool to watch them, kind of peak up to where they're at. Like, they just got off a tour with Cannibal Corpse. So it's, it's pretty gnarly. Very happy for them too, because a few of those guys are buds.
So when you say that you have been touring, pre-pandemic, touring a lot through the US, what were your favorite bands to play with, and which band would you like to play with?
I've always loved playing with Oh Brother, and that was the last tour that we had before lockdown happened. That was a very relaxed tour interaction with everybody that was on the road with us. Also love seeing them play every night. I mean, they're fantastic. As far as who I would like to tour with, Wes, how about you? You answered the first part of the question. Let me think about that.
Yeah, definitely love touring with Old Brother. We get along with those guys really well, and I don't know if it's because they're from like the South or what, but like they're very nice people, and like, you know, we all just kind of mix together very well. I love their music, and I feel like it's just posty enough that like a band like us can tour with them, and it makes sense. But then they also, you know, some of their stuff sounds like Manchester Orchestra. You know, it's very marketable music, but overall they're a great band.
So Tara.
Well, I was going to add on to the Oh Brother thing. Not that we've ever had a tour where like, you know, there's like all like full on rivalry or whatever, but there with those guys, there's no undercurrent of like competition or, you know, don't ask me any stupid questions kind of a thing, or don't, you know, well, you know, it's the camp is open. Like anyone can come by the fireside, you know, so that's what I did love about touring with them. But anyways, boy, my dream tour, and it could be any scale band as big as, well, okay. I mean, I think the last one I really was thinking about that'd be really fun would be like with Idols. I think that if they heard our music, they'd probably be like, yeah, right, that would never work. But I do feel like I feel like we can match some energy wise. We're not as sassy as they are, but you know.
Right.
Would that be the same for you, Wes, or would you like to go on tour with a different band?
That honestly would be really fun, I think. If I could add to it. Man, that's tough. There's so many like bands that are great that we would fit with, you know. It's kind of hard to narrow that down.
Then let's ask something else. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I have not seen you do something like a split record or a collaboration record by now. Would that be something that you'd be up to, or where you say like, nah, we rather do our own thing?
We've discussed it in the past.
Yeah. I think it, like, once again, it falls back on the whole, you know, punk hardcore thing. Like, we're so used to seeing that, and I think if it was the right band, we would probably do it. You know, if it made sense for us to be on a record with another band, we would more than likely do it.
And if any band could cover any of your records or tracks, you can have a wish list. A few weeks ago, somebody told me Prince could have covered any of our tracks. You know, if you could choose any artist to cover any of your songs, which act, which song? And don't say Prince, he's already taken.
Yeah, no, I mean, who wouldn't want Prince to cover their stuff, though?
Right.
Ooh, that's a great question.
Thank you.
I don't know. I'm gonna leave this one to Tara.
And she thinks,
Boy, I'm trying to weigh out what would actually work and what would be kind of funny.
Well, go ahead with what you rather have.
Oh boy. I mean, this is like a nerdy, like fangirl thing to say, but I would love to hear Year of No Light rework one of our songs in particular, just to see what they would do with it and play it, perform it. It'd be very interesting. I love Year of No Light. But that's also kind of the same thing.
Great live band. Great live
fantastic. Fantastic. In fact, when we saw them at Dunk Festival back in 2015, Wes had to restrain himself so much from moshing because Europeans don't really mosh like that, at a festival setting like
Not
that.
at post-metal festivals. No.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But he was just like, oh, I want to go.
Yeah, they were very heavy live. Very.
Two drummers.
But that's also because a few of them come from like really, really heavy doomy bands
Yeah.
before. So like,
Yeah.
I guess maybe Sigur Rós would be cool. I mean, that would be.
that would make your songs even slower.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would be a fun to get away from like heaviness. I think that would be.
Oh, that's true.
Sound to hear.
Fuck it. AC/DC.
AC/DC do Unfloating.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
Definitely. So let's come to our quick fire questions. You get 2 alternatives, have to choose, and maybe give a short explanation. Let's start off with something easy. Touring or writing/recording. So writing and recording versus touring.
Touring, for sure.
Scott Walker versus Kim Deal.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who those people are.
Funny. I thought you Ohio people would at least know your countrymen. Okay. Scott. Kim Deal is the bassist in the Pixies.
Oh, God.
And Scott Walker is one of those old Americana pop avant-garde.
Oh, just
whatever.
crucify me for not knowing a female bassist.
No. Beer versus wine.
Oh, God, beer.
I don't like either.
Tequila.
The Black Keys versus 21 Pilots.
Oh, God.
Oh, Black Keys. Hey, funny enough, really fast, you can cut this out of this if you want to. We actually opened for 21 Pilots before they exploded.
Yeah, in a gymnasium.
Jazz to listen to, jazz or hardcore?
Jazz.
It's hard for me. Probably jazz, yeah.
Spaghetti with meatballs or mac and cheese?
Spaghetti.
Oh. Mac and cheese, baby.
Living in the city or living out in the country?
Like here in Ohio or somewhere else?
Well, city, Ohio, well, we got Cleveland, Cincinnati, that's it. Maybe Akron.
At this point, maybe the country. Just to kind of get a break.
Tara, what would you say?
If it has to be in Ohio, city living for sure. If it's someplace like Alaska, country. Please.
Right.
Dunk Festival versus Post Festival.
Ooh. Does this mean the year we played or just in general?
No, in general. Where would you rather play next? Dunk or Post?
Either one. We love both of those festivals a lot. And tons of great bands, tons of great people. So we'd be stoked for either one.
Again, hopefully you know those two. I mean, like, their masterminds are both from Ohio. So American Music Club or Sun Kill Moon?
Sun Kill Moon.
Sun Kill Moon, yeah.
You definitely know those two bands. Trent and Nine Inch Nails or Maynard and Tool?
Oh, Trent for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a dream tour band right there. Is Nine
Inch Nails. Last two. The Bengals or the Browns?
Not a sports fan.
If I had to choose between two shitty teams, I'm going to take the less shitty team and say the Browns.
But you do remember that the Bengals are the one who went to the Super Bowl.
No, I know, but I used to work in a sports bar and fuck the Bengals fans.
Okay, last one. A little play on your band title. The Ocean or The End?
We played with The Ocean and I've seen them, so I'll say that.
Tara? Prog metal or grind hardcore?
I'd go with the ocean.
Okay. So thank you two for joining us. I can only advise everybody to listen to In Excelsis in general and also the new version of On Floating. We love to see you back on European stages at some point, rather sooner than later. And otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having us. This is awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.